Welcome everybody to Dad's Gone Crypto. I'm Crypto Dad Sean and my co-host Crypto Dad Ryan. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of Nuvola Digital, the innovative company revolutionizing decentralized storage and computing power to make it accessible for everyone. And who better to guide us with their own journey and one of the visionary and founders, Raul. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show, sir.
Sean and Ryan, thank you for having me on today. It's an honor. I've been watching your show for quite some time, and I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, thanks. Great to have you on.
Great to have you on. So, Raul, tell us what inspired you to start this big venture into the crypto space, and what are some pivotal moments that influenced your journey?
Yep. So before I get into the inspiration of Nuvola, I've been in crypto for about 6 years now, right? And I started my journey just like every other normal human being. You get thrown into this crazy, dangerous, like super technical world. You're trying to figure things out. And my first essential dive into crypto was in Cardano back in 2018. And I've learned a lot of lessons. Just to see how far Cardano has come since then has been absolutely a dream come true. How much the ecosystem has grown. And as I've grown into the ecosystem, I started to notice some gaps with, the technology and what I was able to get involved in and get myself into. And over the last year, the DePIN industry has really started to boom and a lot of projects have started to surface. And one of the ones that got me first introduced to DePIN was Iagon. And they're decentralized storage and computing. I was a big investor in them early on in 2023, and I was really looking forward to partaking in their node operations, which helped decentralize their network. And when they finally released it back in December of 2023, I came across some technical barriers that I was like, oh man, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was. And essentially, because I was unable to technically contribute to their network, I was losing out on quite a big chunk of revenue possibilities, right? So after networking with a few people in the crypto space, I came across my co-founder, Syed Lanka, where I approached him and I said, hey, so I'm having this problem where I want to set up a node. Can you help me? And he said, sure, I can do it. I can help you manage it and operate. And that's essentially where the light bulb went off. And it was like, well, if I'm having this problem, there are thousands of others out there that are also having this problem where they can't overcome this technical barrier. And because they can't, they're losing out on what could potentially be life-changing revenues, right? Because as the storage and compute, telecoms, all these industries grow, their revenue share models are going to be funneled down to essentially the node and server operators for them. So that's where Nuvola Digital came to be. And what we are is we are a network expansion protocol at heart, and at our roots, we are a DePIN aggregator. Now, the network expansion protocol side of it essentially is pretty straightforward. We partner with some of our partners such as Iagon, Minutes Network, WorkFax, Copy, and we help run the node and servers to help further decentralize their networks and make them more robust and give them more of a global presence. Now, the DePIN aggregator aspect of it is, as decentralized as these networks are in their rightful industries, the revenue share models are extremely centralized or exclusive to specifically the node operators only. The aggregation part of what we do is essentially we run global scale operations on behalf of our community, which would be our NVL token holders and stakers. And we revenue share those exclusive models back to our holders to give them access or tap them into normal revenue streams that they would not have access to unless they were physically operating the hardware themselves.
Wow, that's really interesting, Raul. Taking it back a little bit, can you share with us maybe some of the challenges that you faced early on and how you overcame them at your early days in crypto here?
Yeah, as far as Nuvola or as far as like my personal crypto?
No, just your personal. We kind of like to get down in it a little bit here and hear about some personal challenges and that kind of things that people have overcome in the crypto space.
Yeah, so actually, funny story. One of my first ever interactions on Cardano, I got scammed. It was
Welcome.
a Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, right. I was christened early in my days, right? I fell in love with Cardano. I was following Charles very closely. I saw his whiteboard video back in 2018, and I really was like brought in by the vision. And I followed his Twitter account. Mind you, this is 6 years ago now, very closely. And one day I see a post and I'm following it. And then there was a sub post under it that said, being that I just left Ethereum, I'm doing a giveaway. And I fell right for it. And then right after I sent the money, I think it was like at the time, like $700, right? Almost one Ethereum at the time, I think it was. I tweeted back, but I tweeted back at the real Charles, and he tweeted at me right away. And he was like, use your effing brain. And that's when it hit me. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about, man? So then I realized, and I went on the scammer's page, and it was an identical, like he bought the same amount of followers, replicated the comments. I was like, man, this guy has a lot of time on his hands. But
Yep.
That was my very first welcoming to crypto moment where I was like, man, I just lost out. At the time was just, I was 27. It was a good amount of money. It was pretty much my rent at the time. So it caused me to wisen up real fast, start to double check everything. Wallets even back then were still so new, and you're trying to like really navigate websites and you don't know what's left from right half the time. So some of the challenges that I fought early on were really honestly just trying to learn as much about the space as possible, trying to understand what's an immediate red flag versus, this is a project that you can trust, or this is, a link or a website you can trust. But as I grew and matured into the space, honestly, you learn to follow the right people. There's a lot of, really beneficial videos out there that kind of guide you and navigate you through the do's and the don'ts. And I was lucky enough that was the one time that I got. Since then, I have a smaller burner wallet, and I usually interact with that one first, and then I move funds around. But as I evolved through those, early times, I really started to fall in love with the problems that crypto was solving in the broader spectrum and the broader field, and the world, the economies and stuff. And I had so many bright ideas that I thought were bright at the time. And when I started to really realize the application and how I could get them done, I kind of came to realize someone had already done it first, or it was just way out of my league of trying to solve those problems. But I kept studying, and eventually it led me to what today is Nuvola Digital. And I think we got a pretty good grip on some problems in the real world and how we can help solve them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raul, a side question: of all the platforms and that you can choose to develop on, you chose Cardano, and Cardano's had a lot of rap over the last couple of years. How's your experience been building on the Cardano blockchain?
Honestly, it's been phenomenal. It's a bit slow as far as coding things go. Not because it's bad. It's because there's a layer of complexity that comes with the security. I feel the most secure when I interact with my wallet on Cardano on most websites, right? Everything's a signature. You have to approve. It shows you most of the times, 99% of the times, the transactions that are being executed. So when I was on Ethereum, I felt it was more like the wild, wild west of things where you don't know who's coming at you, what your wallet is tapped into, and so on. And nothing against Ethereum. They've led the way. They've broken down a lot of barriers and got crypto into a lot of rooms that normally it wasn't in. But like I said, I feel Cardano has such a bright future with scaling their solutions, what they're doing. Charles's famous quote, the slow way is the fast way. It really carries volumes to, when you really sit down, you do things right. It's kind of like a piggyback of the quote, measure twice, cut once. And when you do follow that structure, when it comes time to scale and get your stuff out to millions and billions of people, there's not going to be any issues. And I have a long-term vision in Nuvola. We want that international, large-scale presence. So it made the most sense because of our staking model and how we function on the back end to be on Cardano first.
Tell me a bit about your project in itself. So what stops Minutes Network and all these other partners from basically going to Amazon or Google and getting cloud services there? How and what problems are you trying to solve with Nuvola Digital?
Yeah, so all the partnerships that we have, Iagon, Minutes, right? They stand for decentralization. You mentioned Amazon and other, centralized carriers. They own your data. You know, you upload things, you store things. They essentially can see what you're doing. They can sell your data to other carriers. There's a lot going on. And the craziest part is that you pay them monthly to do so. You pay a service to them, right? When it comes to providers like Iagon for storage and computing, everything's encrypted. No one knows what you're uploading. It's completely private information. They can't turn around and resell it. You know, we have an app coming out. It's called Nuvola Drive, which on the back end is going to be powered by Iagon storage nodes. We have no access to any of our users that are going to be onboarded. So the security and the privacy is there, which is why it would prevent others to, you know, that really value that to go to someone like Amazon. Also, the pricing is drastically different. It's about 10 times cheaper, 20 times cheaper to go through decentralized storage and computing or telecoms with minutes than it would be to go through centralized carriers and providers for that sort. As far as the problems we solve, we essentially, our existence, our identity with our partners is we act like a back-end strong arm where they say, hey, we need to increase our network size rapidly in this part of the world. Can you help us? Sometimes, as decentralized as these networks are, depending on the general public or a lot of different endpoint end users to spin up new nodes can be very taxing or just difficult to get that kind of commitment from. Where someone like Nuvola, we are a slightly bigger player in the space, but we had this conversation with Kopi on many calls where they said, hey, you know, we might have some lag in a certain part of the world with our game because of lack of server presence. Can you help us, you know, spin up some file nodes there to help our game kind of keep up with the demand in a specific area? That's the problem we solve is demand in a certain geolocation of the world. We can step in and be more of a white glove service to these providers as they further build their decentralized networks, which right now it's decentralizations versus centralizations and the entities, you know, it's a revolution that's coming to be. And we essentially help them facilitate on the back end there.
Great. So you're basically able to step in, increase their node structure or their server structure. How are you able to scale that to their needs? Do you guys have your own servers? Are you using, you know, server farms around the world or?
Yeah, at the current moment, we are going through a rental process. It just dollar for dollar makes the most sense up front. We are still essentially a startup. We're about 2 months old. In our 2-year plan, we do plan to start opening up our own data centers and on a global scale. Obviously, that takes a lot of capital, and we want to prepare for that to be able to sustain the runway. But essentially, for now, we rent globally from several different carriers, and we're in about 10 to 12 different countries right now. So we don't solely depend on one carrier. We don't have all our services in one data center in one location. That's a way that we can protect ourselves and our services and also protect our partnerships, right? Where we're spread out and no matter what happens, we have backups that we can kind of bring online at any given moment in time.
Okay, so you're all over the place. If there's a hurricane in Florida, you know,
Yeah.
you've got redundant servers somewhere else in the world. Is that basically how you're keeping 100% uptime for your clients? Or
Yes, a hurricane in Florida is actually very likely, especially this time of year for us. But
right?
yeah, we're in the U.S., Canada, France, Germany, India. I believe Singapore. We're in Australia. We're spread out everywhere. So no matter what happens, we have uptime and we can immediately contact one of our suppliers. We're doing business on a global scale to the point that we can just call them. They have us on, you know, we have them on speed dial and we're doing large scale operations. So there's no issues there at hand, essentially. And again, we can provide that fine tuned operation on the back end if there's ever a demand in a specific part of the world for each and every single one of our partners.
Great.
Raul, bringing it back to the community and staking. So I go out and I buy the Unveil token. I've got, let's say, 1,000 of these little babies. What happens then? Do I just, you know, trade it up and down? Do I stake it? If I stake it, what happens? And how does it tie into your vision of creating a company that wants to give back to your community?
Yep. So our token model is I wanted to build something different that can essentially not suffer any kind of sell pressure or emissions or unlocks of that nature. I've been involved in quite a few projects that I've suffered from as a personal community holder, right? So I think we've all been part of that.
Right.
But essentially, our token, our NVL token, is built around what's called the 1 to X model. Essentially, someone picks up, like you said in your example, 1,000 NVL tokens. Just by holding that, they would get exposure to our revenue share model from each and every single one of our partners. That's where the X and the 1 to X equation comes in. So, Sean, you buy your tokens, you stake them on our platform. Immediately, you would get your percent share. You would get the community gets 50% of the pot of any revenues that Nuvola brings in. So, whatever proportion of your holding is to the circulating supply, you would receive that percentage from all our revenue streams. So, you would get exposure to IGON rewards, Minutes Network rewards, OrgFax rewards, Cornucopias rewards. Our Nuvola Drive will be a revenue share model as well. So you'll get exposure to that. So essentially, that brings it to about 1 to 5. So you're getting exposure to 5 different revenue streams that Nuvola is currently tapped into. And as we keep growing our partnership, it could grow 1 to 6, 7, 10, 20, and so on. And you would never technically have to go out and purchase more NVL tokens to increase the revenue stream or exposure as you would in another investment where the more you buy, the more essentially you could earn. And the best part of it all is that we don't pay any staking rewards in our NVL token. It's all paid in our partners' tokens. That's what their revenue models are built like. So IGON pays in IAG, Minutes pays in MNT, and so on with OrgFax and Copia and so forth. And so essentially there's no emissions or dilution over time of staking rewards. NVL's primary utility is to be held and staked. That is simply it. We already have 75% is in circulation already. The rest sits in the treasury and it's being used for operations in the team. So essentially most of it is in the public control as it is right now.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit there on how the reward split works between Nuvola and your community?
Yeah. So it's a 50-50 split. So 50% goes to the public pool, 50% stays with Nuvola and operations, treasury, and so on. Of the 50%, that gets split to stakers. So right now we currently have 70% staked. So if you're staked, you're going to get your portion of that. Any unstaked rewards, right? So if there's rewards that were allocated to someone who isn't staked, those get split 50% back to staked holders and 50% to the treasury. Now, in the 1 to X model, we are able to keep our partnerships growing by redeploying the treasury instead of trying to raise more capital, right? If we can be efficient and strategic and methodical with how we redeploy our treasury into furthering operations, we can increase the revenue streams that go back to our public stakers and the treasury, rightfully so. And that's where we can kind of have this compounded model effect where our operations keep expanding, our partnerships keep expanding, and we can reap in more rewards each month, each quarter, each year accordingly.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Love it.
Yep.
And we're all about security. So two questions here. How are you protecting your customers' security and data? Because that's very important. What layers of security do you have? And also with regards to your community, obviously they're staking in a pool. What measures do you have in place to protect their assets from someone hacking it or, being devious about it?
Great question. Actually, it's the first time I've been asked that. So as far as customer security on the customer end, those infrastructures are built by our partners. So IAGON's security is robust. Essentially, we run the nodes that operate the backend. Minutes network handling, millions in call volume per day. We don't actually tap into the calls. We're running the nodes that help direct the calls from customer A to customer B, and so on. So as far as the customer and security, that's built from our partnerships layer. We essentially just run the hardware on the back end that's already been set in stone, audited, and so on. As far as our staking platform goes, we chose Ada Anvil. They have an audited staking mechanism and platform. They're trusted. They've been around for quite some time. So it's not an in-house built program staking model. It's an battle tested, audited, tried and tested, already built in and successful model that they essentially help us build. And in a couple minutes, we could also go into the collateralization protocol that we're building with them, which is another really big component of our operations as well. But so for the customer end, it's built from our partners for security, so they're safe and sound there. And for our staking protocol, we have an audited platform that's been out for several years now, so we're not concerned there as well.
Great. Can you tell us about any key partnerships that have been crucial to Nuvola Digital's success?
Yeah. So our biggest one was right out the gate was Iagon. We were actually in talks with them for about a month and a half to 2 months before we even announced that partnership. We squared away a lot of paperwork and contracts. We currently have a 5-year service agreement with them where, and this is really unheard of in crypto, but we take our vision and our approach and our partnerships that serious where we committed to run operations for them for the next 5 years, regardless of market cycles. Yeah, we've already set aside our finances for that runway. No matter what happens, anything short of them failing, we're up and running, right? Where as long as it's profitable and it makes sense for both parties, we will do so. Navjit and I both signed off on it. We had an OTC with all that, but it was critical because we were nobodies coming in, right? A lot of before we went public, we were just this idea that nobody even knew existed. So even when we approached Iagon, they were kind of like at first, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? But as we pitched them our model, our idea, our vision, they saw how serious we were. We doxed. We made that 5-year commitment. We announced it April 2nd, and we hit everyone. It was one of the most successful ambush announcements or stealth launches I've ever seen. The community went completely nuts. It was like, who are these guys? What are they doing? So that was our first kickoff into really establishing ourselves as a respected kind of newcomer, right? Because Iagon is super respected. They're currently one of our biggest partners right now, right? And then shortly after that, we got in touch with OrcFax. That was our second, quote. We put a quotation around the partnership because we run their nodes as a public entity, so it's not technically a partnership, but we will likely use them on the back end for some Oracle solutions for our dashboard coming up. Then we spoke to Kopi, and I know Kopi was the last one to get announced, but Kopi came into conversations. We had a lot of private conversations going, and that's where the more white glove, hand-picked, hey, we might need you in this part of the world for some game lag issues or, some technical things on the back end. And we started to kind of work through those conversations. And then minutes came to be through one of our mods. He reached out to, Josh Watkins. And at first I had respectfully, no idea who they were, what they were about. I knew that they had some ties to World Mobile, and I heard some kind of slight things, but we got on the phone call with Josh, and that's kind of when that light bulb went off too. And it was like, this could be one of the next biggest things ever, right? And we solidified that partnership within, I think, a week or two. We had a agreement signed, and our first initial OTC happened. So, they've all played pivotal roles because they're such respected entities already, rightfully so, in their own industries. So we've got coverage in storage and computing, telecoms, gaming, oracles. We are looking into AI and all these other industries as well. But our partnerships play such a critical role because it helped us solidify ourselves as a legitimate established partner instead of just some random party or project trying to raise funds. You see a lot of those, they come overnight and the next thing you know, they're gone, right? So us really pushing for commitment. That's one thing you don't see a lot in crypto. So us committing to XYZ years of operations or details really helped us establish ourselves there.
Oh, that's great.
The word partnership, right? So it's thrown around like a wet rag in crypto. Everyone's partnering with everybody. Let's use Minutes for example. We're also very passionate about the Minutes project and think it's going to be the next best thing since sliced bread. But tell us, how did you start that partnership with them? Obviously, when you guys are in talks, what are you saying? Hey, I can provide a service for you. What does the partnership actually look like, and what services are you going to be running to allow them to scale? Because with minutes, when they get pushed out of the gates in the next couple of weeks, they could scale to 2 billion users. And do you have the capacity to support them?
Yeah. So our initial conversation with Josh started with, hey, like, we'd love to partner and run back-end operations for you guys. Clearly, you are going to be scaling very rapidly. So, it's in both our favors to essentially provide a service where you can call us up and say, I need support in this part of the world right now. And it just made sense on both sides, right? And also, he saw our value in saying, well, these guys can help run our switch and validation nodes now, but any new advancements we make, then Unity node, the conversation of Unity nodes came up as well. But any new advancements or developments, we can essentially help them on the back end, test run any kind of beta settings or just stress load any kind of systems on the, before they do decide to go public with it in any capacity. So the conversations really flowed really well. There's a lot of synergy there between what we do on the back end and what they need on the front end as well. And as far as challenges go, to help them scale, they have their network already established. Essentially, we're the ones kind of just turning the buttons on and maintaining it on the backside.
Okay, so guys, we're talking about Minutes Network. Do your own research. Go watch one of our podcasts on our interview with Josh, and there's another one coming up soon as well on the Unity nodes. So basically, what Minutes is, I'm in South Africa, Ryan's in Ohio. We need to make a call. All right. Now, there's no direct path to Ryan. There has to be basically a carrier that connects us. Now, that's called termination. When they terminate that call, which means connect myself, Sean, to Ryan, there's a fee that's charged. And that's generally a third party. Now, Minutes have come in and built proprietary software that allows to basically push everybody out of the space just based on they can go as low as or as high as possible. So they can become very powerful by offering cheaper rates. So let's say your local provider is offering that service. Now they can get a discounted rate. They make more money. Yes, the telecommunications make more money. But the shared revenue model is that Minutes provides an incentive program to the person phoning and the person receiving. They all get rewarded. So it's a sharing economy. Now, where I think your company comes into play is that it's all about the quality of call. Let's say in India, let's say using Ohio, let's say the quality isn't so great because Ryan's up in the mountains there and the connection is not so great. They will monitor the quality of call, and the quality is not up there. The carrier is not going to use Minutes Network. So that's, I think, where you guys will step in, and Josh will say, hey guys, we need some extra help out in that area, and you can actually boost that the power ratio there or service that side to make sure the quality of call, because you've got quality of call and you've got a cheaper rate than any other carrier in the world, they're going to terminate the call. They're going to make money out of the call, and everybody gets a distributed network. And that's pretty much, I think, what your company does. They can support them in strategic locations to make sure that those areas that are slightly off grid or slightly out in the wayside can still get that quality of call, which means that Minutes grow in revenue, which means their customers grow in revenue, and of course your customers, which are obviously staking, get a better reward as well.
Absolutely, and that's very well worded. Essentially, what we do and step in, we help decentralize the system further. But if, like you said, if there's specific lack in a specific area in the world, they can contact us. Our partners can contact us directly, and we can help establish instead of trying to go to the public, which obviously sometimes is not going to be the best route for a timely manner on delivery. So that's very well put.
That's great. You've got your company that's just launched. You've got these 4 big guys, and they're mammoth and they're well-respected people on board, and congratulations for that, because that's not an easy task to get people to buy into your vision, especially as a startup. But what else can your community and the people that wanting to get involved in your product, what else can they look forward to? What are you developing in the background? What are some hidden alphas that you can tell us?
So a few things. As far as our independent products go, we have something called Nuvola Drive. This will be a competitor to centralized storage and computing solutions at the moment, which again, we pride ourselves on having the IAGON network on the back end fully encrypted, data privacy, everything. And we got some features that we're looking to put in. I can't fully speak on that on one of the features for legal reasons. We want to make sure it's possible first. But that essentially is a revenue share model that as we onboard clients, NVL token holders will be receiving a good chunk of that revenue share as well. So essentially someone could be paying into our app each month and getting back enough revenue where it's almost essentially a free service, right? So they're contributing to the network and they are getting to use the network for free. And that goes along with, the more users pile in, it could actually end up just becoming another monthly paycheck for our holders as well. Now, our big independent product we are working on is a collateralization protocol. Now, this is one of the first in its kind, and we stumbled across this because Iagon's node rewards are paid out yearly. So every 12 months from the day that the node started receiving, earning rewards, they'll receive however long it was online for in 12 months from then. Now, with that, obviously, it makes the whole process very illiquid, where stakers have to sit for a whole year or however long just to earn that. So I had this idea. One night I was going to sleep in bed and I was like, man, how do I do this? And it hit me like a ton of bricks out of my sleep. And I said, well, if we can collateralize their stake or their reward and have them be able to sell it, trade it, lend or borrow against it, it can essentially extract liquidity from what's essentially an illiquid model for the next 12 months, right? Where, for example, someone earns 20,000 ADA worth of Iagon rewards over the course of 6 months. And instead of bailing, right, they can say, well, I need this money now. I'll, collateralize 10,000 of it and I'll sell it to someone. And if I don't repay it, well, someone gets those 10,000 ADA worth of Iagon at that moment. And I, got the money that I wanted. Or they take a loan and they repay it, however the case may be. Now, what started as just a D-pin collateralization kind of idea, in talks with Ada Anvil, I said, well, why don't we apply this to real world applications where there's a lot of other illiquid things, right? And one of the biggest illiquid things is at the time I had just booked my flight to Italy. I said, man, I just dropped 4,000 on these flights and stay for me and my girlfriend to go. And what if I have to cancel? Well, I'm not going to get that money back. They're going to give me flight credit and you have, 12, 18 months to use it. And it's like, man, I don't want flight credit. What if I just want my money back? And well, what if you can create a platform where we can collateralize or have users collateralize these things, and they turn around, they sell it to each other at a discount or whatever the price may be. And the airlines can also make now an upcharge fee on this, where they made the first 5,000 or 4,000 from me, and now I can't go, so I turn around and I sell it to Sean for let's say I bought it for 5,000, I sell it to you for 4,000. I got most of my money back. Now Sean got a discounted trip to Italy because technically he would never be able to get it for that cheap anyway. And then Sean says, well, I actually don't want to go. I'll sell it for 4,500 to some other guy out there. Now I got my money. I got my liquidity. Sean made his profit. And a third guy gets to go to Italy for way cheaper than it would have cost him at the time. And the airline just made money from me, from Sean, and from the third guy, all making these purchases for essentially one trip worth, right? And that's just one example of unlocking liquidity in the real world. We can do this with Airbnb stays that are non-refundable. You can do this with a lot of different things, right? Where they essentially act like vouchers. The hard part is figuring out how to transfer these credits or, this money amongst traders, right? Because now we've created a secondary market for an illiquid asset. But once you tie a sense of, hey, airline, American Airlines, you don't have to do anything. We've built this protocol. It works. Here's how it works. And you make money on every transaction and we make money on every transaction. Would you implement it or sponsor it? Now you're entering this whole other realm of conversation where you're making someone money that normally wouldn't have made the money because there's a liquidity issue. And they don't have to work any extra for it because we manage everything. So this protocol essentially also taps into gambling and sports betting where you can collateralize a bet. I'm a Jets fan. The chances of the Jets winning the Super Bowl are as close to zero as it gets, right? So I could just throw out a stupid bet out there, say, hey, $100, the Jets win the Super Bowl this year. All of a sudden, the Jets are in the playoffs. That same bet is worth $5,000 because their chances are that much closer to winning, right? Someone picks up the bet for $100. Say, I'll take it, whatever. Now it's the playoffs. They're like, oh shit, my bet's now worth $1,000. But the chances of them going still might not be it. So I'll sell it for $800, right? Someone buys it. All of a sudden, the Jets are in the Super Bowl. That same bet that's been collateralized twice is now worth $25,000 because now there's a 50-50 chance they win, right? And whoever picks that bet up, can then further collateralize it in the fourth quarter. They win by 3, and now the bet's worth 30,000 or whatever the case may be, right? We could dissect this thing 1,000 ways, but
Right.
we are taking gambling and you can collateralize and make these side bets. And that inspiration came from the movie The Big Short when they're at the poker table talking about, I think they're called CDOs or whatever they were calling them. And someone made a bet, and then someone guy in the back goes, hey, I'll bet you that guy loses that bet. And then some third other guy was like, I'll bet you that his bet's wrong and that other guy's bet is partially right, whatever the case was.
Right.
But the idea stemmed, and it was like, this is so real. It can be done. You see it in the real world all the time. Let's just build a platform to collateralize essentially anything and everything and allow the big players that are already making money that aren't tapping into this make more money simply by endorsing, sponsoring, or potentially even purchasing what we're building. Now, this takes crypto technology and you've completely planted it into real world Web 2 application where someone wouldn't even know that they are using a Web 2 or Web 3 product. They have no comprehension that it's a crypto based technology because they're just in the application playing and making money, losing money, whatever the case may be. And that product would be another revenue share model back to our NVL holders. So that one is a much bigger, it's a behemoth. It can almost be a company of its own, essentially. But we're going through catalyst funding on Cardano. We have a high confidence that it's going to get funded. And, when people really understand what we're trying to build, it's almost a no-brainer there.
Raul, you mentioned those 2 projects that you're busy raising funds for, right? So they haven't been developed yet. They're in the process. Now, let's say you get funding and let's say they become realities, right? Does your community still get a piece of that pie, or will they be run as separate entities, separate business, separate models? Or does it everything that you do always go back to the reward structure?
Everything that Nuvola touches will go back to NVL holders in some capacity. It might not be the 50-50 split up front initially. So we've had community members in our Discord ask about Nuvola Drive. And it's going to take a significant amount of marketing cost up front to get it out, right? Also, the Apple Store, Google Store, all these different app platforms, they're going to take a significant chunk of any download sale that comes across, right? I think they take 30%.
Yeah.
So while the numbers might not be the traditional 50-50 from the staking that we have currently, for those independent products, depending on any kind of overhead cost, we will still always funnel it back to NVL holders. I've said this in the early days, it's in our white paper. Anything we touch essentially is to bring NVL holders some more value. And just to give you guys an idea of our first initiative that kind of proved that, we actually undersold our sale by about 43%. 56 to 57% of our tokens sold, right? At the time, there was a lot of economic distress, bombings everywhere, things going on. A few other projects were flirting with launching on that week. Respectfully, it's a competitive market, right? So we undersold by a significant amount, right? And it's incredible to see the partnerships we still were able to solidify with only having essentially half the capital we had planned for. But we took the other 43% of tokens and gave them back to the initial investors. We could have kept those. We could have, a lot of projects burn or whatever the case, but we essentially said any unsold tokens will go back in proportion to everyone's investment. Since then, our token has done a 4 or 5x. So all those initial buyers have done significantly well, right? Our treasury is robust, but everything we do, everything Unveil Nuvola related, is to benefit our holders. I've been part of so many communities where I got burned. The founders ended up being untrustworthy, bigger promises than what were delivered, rugs, whatever the case may be, the worst possible token sales that you could imagine, I've been a part of. So I took all these lessons, and Sayed as well. We've been in the same waters for years. And we said, how can we build a token in a project that, one, is trustworthy, is going to deliver, and two, takes care of its community no matter what? And day one on our token sale, we had to prove ourselves. We only raised half, and we said, you know what? Here's more value to you guys. Thank you to those who believed in us. And now they're up, like I said, 4 to 5x. And that's just a start. We're still such a small little drop in the bucket, and with the potential Iagon minutes, Copy with decentralized gaming, OrcFax becoming an established Oracle on Cardano, the potential is limitless, right? Especially with the deepened sector being the big narrative for this coming bull run. And what we're witnessing right now is essentially a revolution where last time you saw something like this was the coming of e-commerce in the 90s with Bezos and Amazon and what they were doing. And now someone took that specific model and said, hey, we're going to create a sharing economy and revenue share back to the people that are helping establish the network instead of it being an internal cash cow where everything is maintained by a couple hands. Now it's a global process where everyone can participate, and there's no other essential industry or model that can scale as rapidly as one that allows so many hands to get in on it. You're seeing it with World Mobile and what they're doing on a global scale and the rapid growth that they're experiencing, right? And other Web2 models have honestly flirted with it. I've been doing some research over the last year or so, and one that was kind of a deep end model in a way has been like Airbnb. Airbnb is one of the largest real estate entities in the world, yet they own no real estate, right? But they tap into everyone's real estate that wants to make money or monetize their real estate further. Essentially, where Airbnb said, hey, we'll make any home, apartment, condo a node that contributes to our network. They utilize our system. They'll make their money. We'll make their money. We don't take any of the operating costs or any of the overhead costs that the end operator absorbs all of it, and they get a piece of it just for creating a network where someone can operate in that manner. Iagon, World Mobile, Minutes, Copy, OrcFax, they've all done this. And now they're doing it to a sense that the revenue share model is so in favor of the end user that it's like, why not? And you're going to see a lot of these industries. I think telecom, with what Mickey, World Mobile, and Josh at Minutes are doing, is going to revolutionize telecoms forever and internet forever, where they're cutting out so many middlemen, so much overhead cost is getting cut out from the end user and the carriers that it's a no-brainer, right? What Iagon is doing with owning your own data, decentralizing storage and computing resources where no one can resell your data is revolutionary. And the best part about Nuvola is we position ourselves to not only help them, we help the end user, and we get to make money in the process, which is critical for any and all businesses, right? So we're happy to be part of this. It's a revolution. We're seeing the changing of a paradigm and dynamic in the way that we all function on a financial level and on a business and service level too.
Exciting
That's
times.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, you guys have so many big plans. So where do you see Nuvola Digital in 5 years?
Oof, in 5 years? That's a great question. So Syed has said this to me a lot of times, and it sticks, right? Our end goal is to have our own data centers globally spread across the world. Each data center can take a couple million to, upkeep per year, but the money that those things generate is immense, right? And the way that the world's headed with data storage technology, servers and data centers are going to be everywhere. But we want to have a global presence of our own in-house, permanently owned, built data centers. As far as our partnership model in 5 years from now, I mean, we're at 1 to 6 now, I believe. So if we could keep this pace, I would like to be at one, maybe have 50 different partnerships in about
Wow.
10 different industries, right?
Sure.
Where we want to also de-risk ourselves, where we don't want to ride just a single horse in each industry.
Mm.
If we can have multiple horses in multiple industries, at the end of the day, we do have assets under management. We are a portfolio. We do need to protect ourselves and de-risk as well. So we just keep kind of copying and replicating this 1 to X model where it makes sense. We deploy capital. There will be some losers along the way, right? That's obviously with any industry and startup and business. But we feel positioning ourselves properly over the next 12 months, especially. If we could have 50 partnerships in 5 years and just be really spread out, being almost an umbrella of support for a lot of these different companies on a global scale. And the beauty of it being able to run it all through our own data centers, internationally spread, would be a significant accomplishment for us in 5 years, which I'm confident we can achieve.
That's amazing.
Raul, final question. We try to get our crypto dads to understand, it's not just about throwing money at a coin or, it's about learn about crypto, help understand it. You followed a typical crypto near his journey whereby you started with it, lost a little bit or a lot, then got back on your horse and figured out ways, and now you're creating in the space because you're like, yes, I can put money into a coin, I can invest, I can get nodes, but now I can actually I can build a business out of this. So for those crypto dads that are sitting listening to this podcast and wanting to get involved, what advice would you give them to start their journey in starting a project, a digital blockchain project?
So this is a great question too, and it dates back to my time as a quality engineer when I was in aerospace, naval, and the medical industry. I worked my way up to senior level, so I've seen manufacturing, global scale logistics and processes. And my mentor at the time when I first came out of college said the most powerful thing and since then it kind of stuck with me. And he said, you need to reshape how you look at problems. Problems are not problems. They're just solutions that haven't been answered yet, right? Without problems, we don't have jobs. Without problems, there's no innovation. Without problems, humanity is not advancing, right? A problem is placed in front of you. I'm not speaking to the dads out there or any watchers, right? When a problem comes across your lap, it's there for you to try to find a solution for it. My problem was that I'm not technically advanced enough to run nodes and contribute and earn, and I would lose out on significant capital, right? So my single problem turned out to be a much bigger problem that a lot of other people have. So I said, let me create a system where people like myself can come to and be able to still participate and not miss out, right? So when you come across a problem, don't get frustrated, but try to understand the problem, root cause it, right? Root cause analysis was big in engineering for me. And if you ask enough questions backwards, you'll find what caused the problem, and then you can start to work the solution forward. So my piece of advice is embrace problems. They are there. They push humanity forward. They're just solutions that haven't been answered yet, right? So find whatever problem it is you're having within the crypto world, right? And do your research, see if someone else has solved it. And even if they did solve it, how can you solve it better? How can you branch off and extend from that, right? Perfect example again with Nuvola, Iagon, Minutes, they've all created revenue sharing models for node operators, right? The node operators, rightfully so, they're doing all the work, they're taking all the costs. They are reaping the rewards. So they've created a sharing economy for the people that are helping run the network. I took that a step further and I said, how can I tap into those and tap it into people who normally would have zero exposure to that but want to participate? And that was essentially my branching off of an idea that was already essentially in creation. So find the problem, work your way back to the solution, see if someone else has solved it. And if they have, try to solve it better, try to expand, take that inspiration and innovate further. Innovation always moves forward, and the person before you just has done nothing more than lay a foundation for the next big idea. So that's my 2 cents. Don't give up. We're all going to lose money. I've lost money. My first story was 700. Believe it or not, I've lost $250,000 a couple years ago on another bigger play when I was more established. So it comes in all shapes and sizes. But your losses are always suited for the experience level that you're at. So when I lost $700, damn it, that shit hurt, right? When I lost $250,000, damn it, that hurt too. But I was in a position to lose that much, right? And rightfully so. I fought my way back out of that, and you kind of learn to move forward with it. So embrace the problems and innovate forward is my piece of advice.
Amazing advice. That's fantastic.
Awesome. All right, guys, it's that time of the show where we have Dad's Got Jokes. And the name of the game is you got to try get the best joke going out. Otherwise, you got to down a beer. It's later today. I know it's morning for you, Raul. It would be great if you had a beer in the morning, but people will start to frown. All right, so this is how it's going to go. We're going to go, Ryan, you're going to say your joke first, then Raul, and then I'll finish off. And then the goal is not to laugh. If you laugh, it's a good quality joke. All right, cool. Ryan, you're up. Go for it.
Well, yesterday I saw this midget climbing down a prison wall. And I thought to myself, well, that's a little condescending.
That's good. Oh, shit. Everyone's a midget to me, right? So this was really nice. Oh, jeez.
Oh, come on, Raul. You could beat that one.
Okay. Oh, man. What sounds like a sneeze but is made of leather?
What?
A shoe.
I like that
one. We might have to upgrade your single beer.
I'm using that one later today.
We're going to have to upgrade your beer to maybe a keg. It's worthy of a dad joke. Oh, shit. Right. I forgot to tell you that I might be leaving Dad's Gone Crypto and taking up a professional career in mirror cleaning. It's just something I really see myself doing.
That's so bad.
What do you mean bad job? Hey, you good looking guy. How you doing?
All right, we've tortured our audience enough.
Yeah, I was like, get on with it now.
Oh, man.
Hey, thank you very much, Raul. It was really nice meeting you and hearing all about Nuvola Digital. We're super excited. Like I said, I think I'm running out as soon as this show is over and grabbing up some of that token, NVL. So thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Raul, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and we wish you the very best for the success of your project moving forward, and that you reach your 5-year goal of 50 partnerships. And guys, do yourself a favor. Go do your research. Whenever we start a show, we first understand what is the company, what are they trying to solve, who's the people behind the company, and then we make our decisions for ourselves. You can't, just because you heard our show today, doesn't mean we're forcing anybody to buy anything. Go do your homework. If you feel that this is good enough for you, all right, take a little dabble, all right? But keep up to date with the project. Exciting things are going to happen. And Raul, thank you once again for coming on the show.
Sean and Ryan, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to our next interview. Hopefully, I'll have some real big updates for that one as well. So,
fantastic. We can't wait. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you.
Take care. Ciao.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.